Bonnie Gardner. I'm co-chair of the Public Affairs Forum of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Austin. Welcome to our Public Affairs Forums. Our forums are most Sundays at noon at the First Unitarian Church, and they're also shown on Public Access TV at 6 p.m. on Cable Channel 10. Our forum has been running continuously for over 52 years, and our mission is to nurture the mind and the spirit and serve social justice. For more information about our forums, you can go to our church website at www.austinuu.org. And now Douglas Bauer will be introducing today's forum speaker. Douglas?
Thank you, Bonnie. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce Bridget Hall, who's the Associate Director of the Workers' Defense Project. And by chance, I met Bridget on a flight to Washington, D.C. last year, where we were both heading off to attend conferences and completely unrelated topics. The Workers' Defense Project is a membership-based organization that empowers low-income workers to achieve fair employment through education, direct services, organizing, and strategic partnerships. And this certainly fits into the church's social justice mission. Since its founding in 2002, the Workers' Defense Project has focused its organizing efforts on the construction industry in Texas, and alongside its members has won major victories, earning the organization national recognition from the New York Times as one of the most creative organizations for immigrant workers. Because of its work, the Workers' Defense Project has improved working conditions for literally hundreds of thousands of low-wage workers in Texas and in other states. And it has emerged as one of the few organizations able to make real systemic change in the right-to-work states of the American South. Now, before I turn Bridget loose, let me tell you a little bit about her background. She's currently the Associate Director of this organization, and during her time at the Workers' Defense Project, Bridget has spearheaded the organization's first nonpartisan Get Out the Vote effort and oversaw fundraising, leading to nearly 52% growth in their budget over a 3-year period. Bridget Hall has over a decade of experience with nonprofit organizations. She was originally from the Central Coast of California and attended the UC Santa Barbara in the area of global studies. And Bridget has been in Austin since 2011. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Bridget Hall of the Workers' Defense Project. And also I wanted to mention that one of Workers' Defense Project members is here also, Flavia Arzate, and Flavia will also be speaking to us somewhat today. So, Bridget.
Good morning. How is everyone doing today? Good. Thank you so much for having us here. It was, quite the experience that Doug and I happened to sit together on this flight and connected, and I gave him my business card, and sure enough, a few weeks later, he followed up and gave us this opportunity to come here today and speak with you. And I actually see some familiar faces in the audience, and so it's lovely to know the sense of community that Workers' Defense Project is building across Austin and across Texas, that we're building bridges with people from different backgrounds and from different communities to stand together and help us raise the conditions for working families. So, as Douglas mentioned, I'm the Associate Director at Workers' Defense Project. I've been with the organization for almost 4 years now, and more than any other nonprofit I've worked for, I feel so passionate about the work that we're doing here at the organization. In a lot of nonprofits, there's direct service provision to help people meet their basic needs to, get back on their feet and be able to continue moving forward. But at Workers' Defense Project, not only do we provide those basic services, but we're also looking at the root causes of why is it that so many people come to our doors suffering under such egregious conditions, and how can we really change that? I first got involved, as Doug mentioned, as an intern with the Get Out the Vote program, and I felt connected to this mission because my parents worked hard for me and my family. We were a middle-class family. Both of my parents worked full-time to support me and my siblings, to put food on the table, to get us a good education, and to make sure that we could move ahead in life. And they always told us that, you have to work hard in order to get ahead. But what I learned at Workers' Defense Project is that working hard isn't always enough. That you can put in an honest day's work and not receive an honest day's pay. You can go to work every day and face dangerous conditions. That means that you won't come back to your family safe at the end of the day. And that's what Workers' Defense Project is trying to address. So Workers' Defense is a statewide organization winning good jobs for low-wage workers. And we got started in 2002 in a small shelter called Casa Marianella. Is anyone familiar with Casa? So a good amount of people in the audience. So Casa Marianella was a shelter for immigrants and refugees. And there were a few volunteers who were at Casa Marianella, and they were noticing that a lot of the people that were there had jobs. They would go to work during the day in construction, in day labor, and landscaping, and they would come home at the end of the day and they wouldn't have a paycheck. And so Workers' Defense got started as a small legal aid clinic, helping workers recover their unpaid wages. And once it got started, and once the word got out that there was a place people could go to recover their unpaid wages, the organization just started growing exponentially. So in 2006, Workers' Defense Project became an independent organization, and we soon thereafter decided to focus strategically on the construction industry. And I'll talk a little bit more about why we decided to focus on the construction industry. So in 2006, when we became a worker center, we formed part of this national movement of worker centers. Are people familiar with worker centers in the audience? So, many years ago, unions were the way that workers would be able to negotiate with their employers to increase their workplace conditions, to make sure they had a living wage, they had safe jobs, they had trainings, and they had a career pathway. But what has happened is over the last several decades, union density has dramatically decreased across the United States. And so workers don't have the access to be able to negotiate directly with their employers. And so worker centers started as a response to that. So worker centers are different from unions. We don't negotiate directly with an employer on behalf of workers. Instead, we try and provide direct services to workers to help them meet their immediate needs. And then we try and create larger scale change to help raise the floor for working families. So at Workers' Defense Project, we have a strategic focus on the construction industry. When I mentioned in 2006, when we became independent and started focusing strategically on the industry, the people who were coming in our door, 80% of them labored in construction. And so we knew that there was something going on in this industry that was creating widespread difficulty for its workforce. And so we started to investigate that a little bit. The construction industry is big business in the state. It's a $72.3 billion industry, and it's one of the most powerful special interest groups in the state. They donate more money to candidates and to politicians than any other industry group, almost any other industry group. And yet, despite all of the financial resources and economic power that this industry has, Texas is the deadliest place to work construction, and at its peak, a worker was dying every 2.5 days. In addition to the high death rate, 1 in 5 workers experiences wage theft, which means being paid less than minimum wage or not at all for work performed. 20% of workers experience an injury on the job so severe that they have to receive medical treatment. And 60% of workers have never received basic safety training. So these are pretty systemic problems. And in an industry that employs roughly 1 million workers, we're talking about millions of working families who are sending their loved ones to work day in and day out, build our churches, our homes, our schools, businesses, roadways. and their family members are coming back without wages and without without safety and with injuries. And so, to help change this, Workers' Defense Project started to think about, where can we make change in this industry, and what are the ways that we can really lift up the voices of working people and make sure that their voices are being heard as our cities are being built. We all benefit from the work of construction workers, yet they're facing extreme conditions on our behalf. And so Workers' Defense Project developed a theory for change. We believe that those who experience oppression firsthand are the ones that need to leave social justice movements. And that due to the fact that these people are intentionally excluded from decision-making processes that most affect their lives, we have to be very strategic and intentional about how we're bringing the workforce and working people in so that their voices are heard in the industry. And so to embody this idea, Workers' Defense Project has created participatory structures throughout the entire organization that ensures that our members, that construction workers and other low-wage and immigrant workers in this area, are participating in strategic decisions that impact the organization. So we have on our board of directors, 50% of our members are construction workers, are members of the organization, and 50% are community allies. In addition to our board structure at the top, we have several committee structures within the organization so that the people who are doing this work and experiencing these conditions firsthand are the ones who are coming into the organization and helping us think through our strategy as we move forward key campaigns in the organization. So before I invite Flavia to come up and talk about it, in un minutito, just to paint a picture about Workers' Defense Project. I talked a little bit about our theory of change, that the people who are most oppressed need to be the ones leading a movement for change. So to get people involved and ensure that oppressed and marginalized communities are a part of this organization, we kind of have a three-tiered approach to the work that we do: service, empowerment, and change. So Workers' Defense Project provides a variety of direct services to help low-wage workers in the state. One of our most commonly used services is wage recovery. So as I mentioned previously, 1 in 5 workers in the state experiences wage theft. Most of these workers are undocumented. Most of these workers have limited English proficiency, and so their options to recover those unpaid wages are very limited. So Workers' Defense Project has a team of pro and low bono attorneys, as well as paralegals and legal advocates within the organization who help workers recover their wages. We start with simple things: sending a demand letter to an employer, letting them know their responsibility under the Texas Penal Code to pay their employees. We file claims with various government entities at the state and at the federal level. And then sometimes we use direct action when employers don't respond. In addition to the wage recovery services, we also help workers receive medical attention after they've been injured on the job. And we provide skills training so that workers can stay safe and advance on the job. We provide English as a second language courses that has a focus on workplace language. We also provide OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 safety training courses, which are offered in Spanish and are geared towards low literacy adults. So when I mentioned the construction industry has roughly 1 million workers, conservative estimates show that 50% of those workers are undocumented. So when we're talking about who's actually building our city and our state, it's really immigrants, and most of these immigrants are coming from Spanish-speaking countries. However, there are very few options for training in Spanish for construction workers. And so these OSHA safety trainings that we have received national recognition from the Department of Labor and other groups as an award-winning model of how we can really protect workers. So in addition to the OSHA safety training course, we also offer computer literacy courses with an eye towards organizing, and we also provide We partner with Manos de Cristo and with the Literacy Coalition of Central Texas to really have a large impact in the Central Texas area, so reaching as many adults as we can. So by providing those direct services, we're creating a bridge with people in the community to come into Workers' Defense Project and receive a basic service that they need to take care of themselves and their families. Once workers come in our door, we try and get them involved in the bigger picture, in the broader fight that we have, right? We want workers who come in to be able to receive their wages, to be able to pay their bills, but we also want them to recognize that the construction industry is broken right now, and that it doesn't have to be that way. That construction can provide good blue-collar jobs with a solid status in the middle class, but that how it is right now, it's not, and we can change that. So we get workers involved, and we teach them some soft skills so that they feel empowered to really take control and fight back, not just for themselves and for their own case, but for the whole community. So we provide leadership classes, which is a 10-week course that talks about the history of social movement in the United States. We go into detail about the construction industry, and we also teach people about how to mobilize your community, how to get other people interested in the work that you're doing to make change at a broader level. In addition, we also have our members speak at events with us. So Flavia will tell some stories about actions and activities that she spoke at, and really trying to show people that, you know, despite what society tells you, despite what the media says, your voice matters and it's very important. And so we try and empower people to feel that power that they have to then make change. And we make change in a lot of different ways. Some of our biggest successes have come with local and state level policy. Austin and Dallas are the only two cities in the entire state of Texas that guarantees rest breaks for construction workers. And that's because Workers' Defense Project fought and won those. Yeah. It's a big, thank you. Which is a big victory. I mean, you know, today it's not so hot. It's, you know, maybe in the 60s. It's, you know, cloud coverage and there's some rain. But when you think about what it's like in the summer, when there's so many days of 100 degrees or hotter, and construction workers aren't guaranteed any break outside of lunch. That means no break for water, no break to use the restroom, no break to sit in the shade and catch their breath and cool down while they're doing extremely manual labor. And that's dangerous. That is life-threatening when people do not have the opportunity to take a break. And so in 2009, Workers' Defense Project organized a thirst strike in the city of Austin out front of City Hall. And we had nurses come out, we had construction workers come out, members of the faith community come out and support us. And we got the city council to pass mandatory rest breaks for construction workers. So that means for every 4 hours of work, construction workers get a 10-minute rest break to drink, use the restroom, and sit in the shade. And then the fight in Dallas was not as smooth as the one in Austin. So we started this campaign in Dallas in June of 2014. We had workers who came forward and said that they were denied rest breaks, that they had suffered injuries as a result of being denied rest breaks that meant they had to go to the hospital, which meant they didn't have money to pay rent, to pay their bills, and there was just this horrible trickle-down effect. So we launched a campaign in June 2014 in Dallas to win rest breaks, and it was a big challenge. The industry fought us tooth and nail and really didn't want us to win this basic protection for construction workers. But finally, in December of 2015, so a year and a half after this campaign launched, we finally won rest breaks. And I think the reason why we were able to get it across is because in Garland, in the summer of 2015, there was a 24-year-old man who was working in residential construction. And he wasn't feeling well, so he went to his boss and he said, "I'm not feeling well. I need to take a break. I need to drink some water." And the boss says, "I'm not paying you to rest. I'm paying you to work." So this man continues working, and his coworkers didn't really see him at around 1 o'clock. And then at 4 o'clock, they found him, and he had collapsed, and he died of heat exhaustion. And it took a loss of life to get the Dallas City Council to take action and pass something so basic as a 10-minute rest break. And when we win these breaks, it has real tangible meaning in the lives of construction workers, and it also shows the community and the public and elected officials that they need to listen to the voices of construction workers. So those rest breaks were some really big victories for us. We've also succeeded in passing several statewide laws that better protect working people, including criminalizing wage theft. So wage theft, when a worker is paid less than minimum wage or not at all for work performed, used to be just a civil offense. But we've passed legislation to make it a criminal offense, and we've gotten prosecutors in Travis County to actually prosecute those cases. And we're working on doing the same in Dallas County. We've also passed legislation to end the practice of misclassification, which is payroll fraud. So an employer says that a worker is an independent contractor, not an employee, to avoid paying taxes, which ends up shifting the cost of running a business onto the worker. So there are a lot of policy victories that the organization has achieved. And before I talk a little bit more about some of the other victories and what we're doing looking ahead, I wanted to invite Flavia to come up to the stage. Applause. Thank you. So Flavia has been with the organization for several years now. And someone else was slated to speak today. I called them at 9 a.m. to confirm, and they canceled last minute. So Flavia got the call to come just about an hour before we got here. And actually, she told me she joined a soccer league, and today was supposed to be the first game, and she missed the game to be here with us today. So thank you so much, Flavia.
Gracias. Hola, buenos días, señores de la audiencia. Mi nombre es Flavia Arzate.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone here in the audience today. My name is Flavia Arzate.
Gracias por permitirme estar aquí.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today.
Les quiero contar un poco de mi historia, de cómo fue que yo llegué a Proyecto de Defensa Laboral.
I want to tell you a little bit about my story of how I got to Workers' Defense Project.
Yo fui buscando un apoyo, el cual lo encontré con Proyecto de Defensa Laboral por un accidente que yo tuve de trabajo.
I had an accident at work, and I was looking for a place to go for help, and I found that at Workers' Defense Project.
Mi accidente fue un poco fuerte. Tuve una cirugía de 2 tendones cortados en mi mano y mi rodilla desbloqueada.
My injury was pretty strong. I had to have surgery for 2 tendons in my knee and 2 tendons in my ankle and on my knee as well.
Fue en mi brazo la cirugía.
Oh, and my arm, in my arm.
Y cuando yo llegué ahí, pues disculpen, quizás yo cuando vi por primera vez dije, este es un lugar que no creí que me fueran a ayudar, pero gracias a Dios tuve un apoyo muy grande.
And when I got to this place, I, was surprised that someone would want to help me, but I did. I received a lot of support from the organization.
Yo creí que no me iban a poder ayudar porque yo era una persona inmigrante que solamente hablaba español.
I thought that they wouldn't help me because I'm an immigrant and I only speak Spanish.
Pero gracias que a ellos, a esta organización de Proyecto de Defensa Laboral, que sí me ayudaron bastante. Y digo, me ayudaron porque mi caso ya terminó.
But thankfully the organization was able to help me and help me successfully resolve my case.
Pero yo sigo ahí porque para mí es un lugar de mucho apoyo y enseñanza por las oportunidades, aparte de mi caso, que he recibido.
But I continue with the organization because there's a lot of support and a lot of learning I can do at the organization.
Como las oportunidades como son que obtuve clases de OSHA 10, tengo OSHA 30.
There's a lot of opportunities for me at the organization. I've gotten my OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 certificate.
No trabajo en un lugar de construcción, pero lo hice por ver y tratar de ayudar a otras personas que pudieran estar en peligro y poderles decir que no se puede hacer
I personally don't work in construction, but I took these courses so that I could help other people and see if they're in dangerous situations to correct that and help them stay safe.
Tomé clases de computación.
Computer classes.
Tomé clases de inglés, no por mucho tiempo, y dirán, ¿por qué no está hablando inglés?
I took English classes, not for that long, as you can see, because I'm not speaking in English.
But I can understand 80% English that I can speak. Like, thank you so much. But I can speak 60%. But I feel so good because I'm his mom, the 2 daughters, they studying in Cathedral School, St. Mary. And I try working hard for my girls first. And I love so much. Voy a continuar hablando español porque se me va a acabar el inglés. And he participado en muchas protestas y marchas.
I participated in a lot of protests and marches.
Tratando de apoyar a mis compañeros que me han apoyado.
Trying to help the people who have helped me.
En una de las marchas o más bien protesta que tuvimos en mayo 19 del 2015 enfrente de la casa del gobernador.
One of the protests that I participated in was on March 19th, 2015, where we went in front of the governor's mansion.
Pero tuvimos otra que fue en noviembre 19 y 21.
But there was another action that I participated in from November 19th to the 21st.
Que fue la que más me impactó, que fue una peregrinación que tuvimos de 3 días.
And to me, that was the most impactful action I participated in. It was a pilgrimage that we carried out over 3 days.
Porque tuvimos el apoyo de muchas organizaciones y personas que nos apoyaron en la marcha.
And we had the support of many different organizations throughout the march.
La cual empezó en Hutto, Texas.
And the pilgrimage started in Hutto, Texas.
Y hasta llegar a la casa del gobernador Albert.
We marched from there to the governor's mansion, Greg Abbott.
Esperando que él nos escuchara y detuviera las deportaciones y separaciones de familias inmigrantes.
We were asking him to listen to us and to stop the deportation of immigrant families.
Y que él retirara la demanda que hizo para la acción ejecutiva de DAPA y DACA.
And we also asked him to drop his opposition to the executive actions that created DAPA and DACA.
Y pues esos son unos de los proyectos que más me he sentido muy bien.
These are just some of the activities and protests that I participated in that have made me feel really good and proud.
Porque hemos estado luchando juntos con esta organización de Proyecto de Defensa Laboral.
And, we've been fighting together with Workers' Defense Project, looking for justice.
Y el cual este lugar me ha apoyado, me lo he sentido como una familia de apoyo para mí.
At Workers' Defense, I feel like I have family support.
Que en realidad, pues, en los buenos momentos y en los malos momentos, como fue mi accidente, ellos me apoyaron.
In the good times and in the bad times, like when I had my accident, they continue to support me.
Y yo pienso estar ahí hasta lo último. Soy una de las personas que me gusta estar y luchar hasta el último momento.
And I plan on being there until the end. I'm someone who will continue fighting until the last moment.
Como les dije, soy madre de 2. Para mí son mis princesas. Y pues igual soy madre soltera. Yo no pienso bajar mis brazos. Sigo adelante.
As I mentioned, I'm the mother of 2 daughters. I like to think of them as my princesses. And I'm a single mother, and I will never put down my arms. I will always keep them up and keep fighting.
Esperando también el apoyo de otras personas para poder apoyar a otros compañeros que también necesitan el apoyo.
And we are, always looking for support from the community to be able to advance the organization and get more help for people who need it.
Y espero que así como yo trato de apoyar esta organización, nosotros recibamos el apoyo de otras organizaciones para que nos sigan ayudando a apoyar a todos nuestros compañeros.
And so just like I am here supporting Workers' Defense Project, there's many other groups in the community that support us to make sure that we can keep helping others.
Muchas gracias por recibirme y disculpen por no hablar todo el inglés.
Thank you so much for having me, and excuse me for not speaking English. ¿Cuántos años tienes con PLL?
¿Perdón?
¿Cuántos años tienes junto con PLL?
Sí, disculpen.
Just curiosa.
Alrededor de 4 años.
So I was just asking how long Flavia has been with Workers' Defense Project, and she said 4 years.
Eso seguir muchos más.
And she wants to keep with us for many more years. And so Flavia is an important leader in the organization. What she didn't mention is at that rally on May 19th in front of the governor's mansion, she was up there in front of hundreds of people telling her story about why she needs immigration reform and why it's so important. The executive actions that she mentioned, DAPA and DACA. DAPA is a program, deferred action for parental arrivals, and it would give temporary work authorization, driver's licenses, and deportation relief to the parents of citizen children. And there's roughly 750,000 people in the state of Texas who would have qualified, Flavia being one of them. And so she got up there in front of hundreds of people and told the story of just how personal this fight is for her and why she's going to keep fighting until there's reform to give honest, hardworking people like her the chance to have dignified working conditions and be at the same level and not be pushed down into this like substandard state of living. So Flavia is an important leader at Workers' Defense Project, but there are thousands more people who have signed up to become members of Workers' Defense Project. Not all are as brave as Flavia is, but I think, these are important stories for us to hear. These are voices that we don't often get the opportunity to listen to, and I think Workers' Defense Project is lifting up these voices so that we understand what is behind all of these amazing benefits that we have living in an amazing city like Austin. So I'm very proud to be at an organization which really values the participation of its members. And our members are helping us win incredible victories. So those rest break victories that we won in Austin and in Dallas were in large part because of the support of our members. We also base a lot of the campaigns and our policy campaigns and our fight for immigration reform on research. So in 2013, Workers' Defense Project conducted the most comprehensive study to date on the Texas construction industry, which is how we found a lot of those statistics that I mentioned about wage theft, about the demographics of the construction workforce, about the safety conditions. And we have a participatory research model. So we actually train our members to be the ones to go to work sites and ask construction workers these questions. And then from that data is how we launch campaigns. So our members are involved start to finish. So I've talked a little bit about the challenges of the construction industry and the dangerous working conditions for working families, but I also want to talk a little bit about, how we're winning and how we're making change and what the future looks like for Workers' Defense Project. So there's 2 big projects that we are working on that we think will really change the way business is done in Texas. One of which is looking at how the state uses economic incentives. So if you all remember, Rick Perry talked a lot about the Texas economic miracle and how during the Great Recession, Texas was really bucking that trend and our economy was growing and our economy was strong. And how he claims that how that happened is because our state gives out tax incentives, tax breaks, grants and abatements to companies. So we decided to look into that and see what is really behind those numbers. And what we found is that the state, in Texas, local and state government gives out roughly $1.76 billion annually to mostly Fortune 500 companies. So we're not talking local business. We're not talking businesses that are based in Texas. We're talking about big, big companies that are some of the most profitable companies in the country. And another thing that we found is there is really not that much data. No one is really tracking how that money is being spent, whether companies are fulfilling the promises that they make, and whether workers are actually benefiting. There are very few standards set about wages or benefits in jobs, and it really makes you wonder, in a state with one of the lowest investments in our students, in public education, in healthcare, is that where our taxpayer dollars should be going? So one way that we've kind of pushed back against this trend is in Austin. In 2013, we passed an economic incentive policy which states that if the city gives out any dollars to companies who want to come to Austin, then those companies have to guarantee basic workplace conditions for construction workers, which includes a floor of a living wage, which in Austin is $13.03. They must include safety training, workers' compensation coverage, and advanced safety training for supervisors. Some of our partners are leveraging the data from our study to launch similar campaigns in Houston, and we anticipate that down the road we will be launching similar campaigns in other cities across Texas. Another one of the major campaigns that we're moving forward is our Better Builder program. This is a corporate social responsibility program where Workers Defense Project signs legally binding codes of conduct with developers to guarantee basic workplace protections for its workforce. Again, things like a living wage floor, safety training, workers' compensation coverage, which I failed to mention before. Texas is the only state in the country that doesn't require workers' compensation coverage or a private alternative. So it's the deadliest state in the country. 60% of workers lack basic safety training. 20% of workers experience an injury so severe they have to go to the hospital, and yet we don't even mandate workers' compensation coverage or something else. So Better Builder provides these basic protections, and then the kicker is that we have monitors that go onto those sites to ensure that all of the subcontractors on that project are actually complying with those conditions. Construction is a highly subcontracted industry. There is a developer who hires a general contractor to build a project, and then that general contractor hires contractors to oversee various parts of the work. That contractor hires other contractors, and it continues down, oftentimes 6, 7, 8 levels of subcontracting. And so with these Better Builder agreements, when we get the developer at the top of the chain, they're guaranteeing that every other contractor on that site will abide by those conditions, meaning every single worker on that project, regardless of who hired them, will benefit from these basic protections. And so this is a program that has so far impacted over 8,500 workers in Central Texas, monitoring $850 million of construction projects. And it is a model that we see can be expanded to other areas. We are already in talks in Dallas with the Dallas Independent School District, with a Dallas Community College to implement Better Builder standards on some of their projects. And we hope that this program will just continue to go. It has real, tangible impacts on the lives of working people. So, the construction industry is big. There's lots of challenges, but we're finding a little piece of the pie that we can cut out and raise standards for working people so that Flavia and other of her colleagues are able to come home safe at the end of the day. So Workers Defense Project is a nonprofit organization. We rely on the support of community groups to help. We have our volunteer orientation the first Tuesday of every month. And we also have a worker meeting every Tuesday that I would like to give an open invitation for you all to come by. It's an opportunity to see how we carry out our work on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I'd like to open the floor for questions for myself or for Flavia.
Yes, thank you.
Russell, ask you.
Thanks for your work. Do you have an opinion about immigration policies being talked about these days?
No sé si quieres pasar. Él preguntó si tenemos una opinión acerca de la política de la inmigración.
Si tenemos una opinión.
Uh-huh.
¿Cómo opinión de qué?
¿De qué piensas cómo son las políticas de inmigración en este momento?
Pues yo pienso que es muy fuerte para muchas personas que han sido separadas de sus hijos, el cual queremos un futuro muy bueno para los hijos.
I think there's a really strong impact of our immigration policy right now, in particular for families who are being separated. A lot of people came here to build a better future for their children, and now they're being torn apart. And yeah, I think, the executive action on immigration was the first large-scale immigration activity we've had since Ronald Reagan. And I think when you look at the construction industry, which, conservative estimates say 50% of the workforce is foreign-born, our economy desperately needs reform. And businesses are going to benefit, families are going to benefit, communities are going to benefit. And so we really need some basic protection for immigrant families, some type of change. We've been fortunate to work with Congressman Doggett back in 2013 when there was a bill that was moving through Congress. He came and we held a town forum where he actually talked to the community about what is in the bill, how it will impact people. And so it's definitely something we continue to push for, comprehensive immigration reform.
We have a question from Dolores Dickerson. Would you stand, please?
Hello. I have been having ongoing problems with the Texas Workforce Commission, a state agency to collect back pay. And I contacted State Senator Kirk Watson's office for help regarding this favoritism on the part of the TWC. And he basically told me to go see an attorney. My question is, what can the Workers' Defense Project do to resolve this issue of employer favoritism when trying to collect back salaries from the Texas Workforce Commission?
So it's challenging working with government bodies, and especially in a place like Texas when there is such a high ratio of Texas Workforce Commission, OSHA investigators, any type of regulators to the workforce. It's extremely challenging because there's just not enough people there to help move forward the work that we need them to move forward. And so we have close contacts in the TWC that we're able to talk to when we have issues. But we also try and use multiple channels because we know that there are some really difficult challenges with relying on just one government entity.
We have a question from John Franks.
Yes, two questions. How do you reach out to workers in these various industries, and do you also work with the healthcare workers and restaurant workers?
¿Tú quieres contestar? ¿Cómo es que llegamos a la comunidad de trabajadores, cómo es que sepan de PDL?
Tenemos muchas formas de cómo comunicar a las personas que hay una organización que puede ayudarles o ayudarnos.
We have a lot of different ways that we reach out to people who could benefit from our services.
Mi información para cuando yo llegué a Proyecto de Defensa Laboral fue por medio de American Gateway.
I heard about Workers' Defense Project through American Gateways, which is another nonprofit in town.
Me dio 2 recomendaciones hacia otra organización, pero me dijo, Proyecto de Defensa Laboral es mucho mejor que la otra.
They actually gave me 2 recommendations of 2 organizations I could go to for help, but they said Workers' Defense Project is the best. And so it's referral services, right? Other American Gateways, 311 also knows to refer to us. There are other nonprofits in the community that will refer to Workers' Defense Project. A lot of it is word of mouth. We help, I think roughly 500, we get 500 people in our doors every year. We educate 2,600 workers a year on basic Know Your Rights trainings. And so our name gets out in the community, and so a lot of people come to us through that. We also have relationships with the Mexican consulate, which provides similar wage recovery services. So we'll go and we'll table there and talk about our work. And we also work with Spanish language media, Univision and Telemundo, to do like PSAs and advertisements about our work. And then you asked about healthcare. So Workers' Defense Project will accept cases from workers in a variety of industries, in landscaping, in domestic work, in restaurant services, construction. but our strategic campaigns and policy focus is on the construction industry, but we will help a variety of workers who come our way.
We have a question from Douglas Bauer. Douglas?
Thank you. Many years ago, when I was still a student, I worked in the timber industry in the Pacific Northwest for summer jobs, and that was work that, of course, could be dangerous. But at that time, I believe most, if not all, of the full-time employees actually had health insurance from the company. My question to you, what percentage, if any, of these construction workers have insurance? And kind of the second part of it, our governor has refused the U.S. Medicaid money, federal government Medicaid money, and has that had any impact on the workers in this industry?
So la pregunta es, ¿qué porcentaje de trabajadores de construcción tienen seguro médico? ¿Y qué impacto ha tenido el hecho de que nuestro gobernador negó apoyo federal para expandir el programa de salud pública?
Exactamente el porcentaje de cuántas personas sin seguro hay, no lo sé, pero solo sé que sí hay muchos sin seguro por motivo de que no tenemos un documento para probar nuestro estatus y las aseguranzas no quieren darnos una aseguranza al cual saben que no tenemos una documentación buena.
So I can't tell you the precise percentage of how many people have or don't have insurance, but I can say that most of us don't because a lot of us are undocumented and we don't have the paperwork, and so insurance companies aren't going to give us that insurance because we don't have proof.
Y esa es una de las cosas que nos ha hecho no obtener bastantes beneficios para nosotros, el no tener documentación, que el gobernador fue una de las personas que paró ¿cómo se dice?
Un alivio.
Un alivio para nosotros el poder tener una documentación para identificación y una documentación para aseguranzas buenas.
So that is a reason why we don't have a lot of benefits. Not having papers means that we don't really have the opportunity to get a lot of these services, and our governor is one of the people who stopped this DAPA program that would have given us temporary relief, would have given us an state ID card that we could have used for benefits, including insurance.
We have about 8 minutes left. We have a question from Dan O'Shea. Dan?
Hi. I'm wondering if you'd like to talk a little bit about your relationship with other actors involved with economic expansion, and particularly in the construction industry, either antagonists or allies, such as associations of builders and contractors, labor unions, chamber of commerce, city, state, county offices.
Quería saber un poquito más de la relación que la organización tiene con otras personas en la industria, los contratistas, los inversionistas, los sindicatos.
Si la la organización está tratando de que precisamente nos den unos salarios buenos, aseguranzas buenas que tengan y puedan ellos estar con los trabajadores, y que solamente lo único que nosotros como trabajadores inmigrantes lo que queremos es trabajar en este país ilegalmente.
So the organization is fighting to help get us good jobs with good benefits and helping us to get to the place where we can have legal work status in this country.
Es por eso que estamos luchando con los contratistas. Estamos hablando con contratistas y otras compañías de trabajadores para que ellos vean también un mejor futuro tanto para el país, para las personas.
So there's some contractors that we're talking with. There's other contracts that we're fighting against, and just to raise the standards and give us these benefits that are going to help not just the country but also working people. And to expand on that a little bit more, we do have good relationships with some people in the industry. There's a large home builder in Texas who supports Workers' Defense Project and has for the past several years. Also, several of the developers who have signed onto Better Builder Codes of Conduct with us have actually come to bat for us. And when there's been decisions at the county level, for example, about whether or not they should adopt Better Builder standards on public works projects, these developers have, written letters saying that, this is a program that adds value to my business, that is not overly regulatory and impacts my decision to operate my business. But, to be honest, there are some people who like business as it is going because it means that they're able to get ahead. So there's kind of naturally going to be a little bit of conflict between Workers' Defense Project and some contractors and some builders. Some of the building associations were the ones who fought hardest against us when we were fighting for the rest break ordinance in Dallas. But that's, kind of the name of the game. We do have support from a lot of different unions. We work closely with the AFL-CIO, SEIU, with AFSCME, also with the building trades. Their president of the Texas Building and Construction Trades is a huge supporter of Workers' Defense Project, and we didn't always see eye to eye. When we first kind of were building our reputation, he saw us, he would come and talk to us and say, why would we work with you? Immigrants are stealing all of our jobs. And then he saw that, immigrants are here and they're doing this work, and if we don't fight together, if we don't fight to raise the floor, then everyone loses. And so we've been able to build a very strong relationship with them to really help raise the floor and protect the few good union jobs that are left in the state.
I'm really struck by the parallels with the United Farm Workers movement. Have you benefited from any of their experience or worked with them directly or indirectly?
We study their work a lot. We use writings by Cesar Chavez and by Dolores Huerta in our leadership class, and we talk about their fight and how they used various tactics to help advance their movement. We also had the fortune for our 10th anniversary of actually having Dolores Huerta speak at our event. But we're always, there are many groups who are in a similar fight as us, and we try and learn from them. So in addition to the United Farm Workers, there's the Coalition of Immokalee Workers out of Immokalee, Florida, which has a similar program as the Better Builder program called the Fair Foods program, which gets the buyers of tomatoes to pay a penny more a pound to guarantee basic working conditions. And so we're always, trying to look to our peers and to our predecessors for examples of how they did this and what were their successes and their challenges.
And the victory in establishing the required rest break is really quite an accomplishment. But as you were talking, I guess I was shocked that there weren't some sort of fair labor standards already in place. I guess, does the U.S. Department of Labor, do their rules not apply at all to these situations?
Well, the Department of Labor does have very clear rules about rest, water, shade. And they have this whole campaign that they've launched in the past year about the importance of those three things. And I was looking at it, and it's shocking that, what they say about once the temperature gets to 97 degrees, you're supposed to stop all non-essential work. They have this escalation of when it gets to a certain temperature, how you should reduce your activity outside. You should reduce your physical labor outside. And construction workers, every day you walk outside and you see them building. And so they are recommendations by the Department of Labor. They're not laws. And so they don't necessarily have the enforcement that they need to be able to ensure compliance with those.
So currently, who is actually enforcing the rest breaks, or do you have to wait and complain And then I would imagine someone would be afraid to go complain about an employer's failure to comply.
So in the city of Austin, we have worked closely with the city over the last several years and actually got them to get a compliance officer for rest breaks. So now the city of Austin has it, but in large part it is complaint driven. So one of the components of the ordinance is that you have to have signage at construction sites that tells workers about this right. And then really the onus is on the worker to be the one to report. We're still working through our plan for implementation. But retaliation is a real thing that a lot of workers face. And like Flavia was saying, when you have undocumented status, your risk is exponentially higher. Employers will threaten to call immigration services if you speak out. So it's a real issue. And we're hoping that we'll have a good rollout plan with the city of Dallas to ensure proper enforcement that actually protects the rights of workers and doesn't put them at increased risk.
And criminalizing also not paying wages is a very significant advance. But so far, that's just local to this area? You would think there would be more penalties. And what kind of penalties typically are there when that's reported?
So I think we have successfully gotten prosecutors in Travis County to advance cases. We're working on it in Dallas. But it's been a very big challenge. It's just an area where there's not a lot of interest to pursue these types of cases. But there is some, I think the law specifically states you have to show intent, right, that you are repeatedly denying workers their wages. And it's really challenging because a lot of businesses will just change their name. They'll get caught for one violation, so they dissolve the company, have a new name, and then operate under a different identity. So it's really difficult to advance those cases. But theoretically, it should be criminal charges.
Well, thank you for bringing us up to speed on this very important social problem, and you're making tremendous advances. Thank you, Bridget and Flavia, for presenting to us today. Let's give them a big hand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.